If you only work when you feel good, you'll never get far, because life won't give you good days every day. Most people wait for the right mood before they act. They tell themselves, I'll start when I feel ready, and that's why they keep losing time. The problem is, your goals won't pause until you're in the mood again. Opportunities pass, momentum fades, and before you know it, weeks are gone. If you want real progress, you have to act, whether you're happy, tired, stressed, or distracted. This isn't about ignoring your feelings. It's about not letting them decide your future. Winners don't rely on good moods. They rely on habits, discipline, and doing the work no matter what. In this video, we'll break the habit of mood-based action. I'll show you how to keep moving on the days you don't feel like it, because that's where real results are built, and that's how you stay ahead. Number 1, stop letting your feelings decide if you work today. Most people only work when they feel like it. They wait for a good mood, they wait for that rush of energy, and when it's not there, they slow down, they postpone, they tell themselves they'll start tomorrow. That habit is dangerous, because your goals are not interested in how you feel. The world keeps moving whether you're in the mood or not. If you want to live at your highest potential, you need to stop letting your feelings decide if you work today. You know what happens when you depend on your mood? You get inconsistency. One week, you're productive because you feel good. The next week, you fall behind because you feel tired or stressed. Then you spend the following week trying to catch up. It's a cycle that keeps you stuck. People who win in life are not running on feelings. They run on decisions, habits, and standards. Feelings come and go, but decisions can stay the same every single day. Think about how many times you've had important things to do, but you looked at the clock, you didn't feel motivated, and you told yourself, I'll do it later. Later often becomes never. That is the silent thief of progress. When you let your feelings lead, you give away your control. You're saying, if I feel good, I'll show up. If I don't, I'll disappear. That's no way to build a future you can be proud of. You have to separate action from emotion. That means you do what needs to be done, whether you're in a good mood, bad mood, or no mood at all. You show up because it's on the plan, not because it feels exciting. You follow through because it's the standard you set, not because today happens to be a sunny day. That's how you build consistency. And consistency is where the results are. I've met many talented people who never built anything lasting because they only worked on their good days. When they were happy, they produced amazing work. But when life hit them with stress, fatigue, or doubt, they stopped. And because they stopped so often, they never gained momentum. The truth is, your future doesn't care how motivated you feel. It cares how much you do, how often you do it, and how well you stick to it. When you wake up tomorrow, you might feel tired, you might feel stressed, you might feel like nothing's going your way. That's the day that matters most, because that's the day where you either prove you can push through, or you prove that your feelings are the boss. And if your feelings are the boss, they will lead you into laziness, procrastination, and wasted time. You have to treat your work like it's non-negotiable, just like brushing your teeth, just like eating, just like locking your door at night. You don't ask yourself if you're in the mood to do those things, you just do them. That's the mindset that keeps you on track, even when life isn't perfect, because life will never be perfect for more than a moment. And if you're waiting for perfect conditions, you'll wait forever. Some days you'll feel energized and sharp. On those days, work will flow easily, but other days it will feel heavy, slow, even frustrating. Those are the days that define you. Those are the days that test whether you are serious about your goals or just excited about them. Excitement is temporary, commitment is permanent. I've seen people waste years chasing the right mood before they start. They spend hours reading motivation, watching videos, waiting to feel inspired enough. By the time they're ready, they've lost half the day. The people who win start before they feel ready. They act first and the feeling often follows. Because here's something you need to understand. You don't need to feel like doing something to do it well. You just need to start. And once you start, your mind and body often catch up. It's also important to remember that feelings are not always accurate. You might feel tired, but you could still work effectively. You might feel anxious, but you can still focus. You might feel uninspired, but you can still move forward. If you trust feelings too much, you'll make bad decisions. But if you trust your plan, you'll get results regardless of what's going on in your head that day. Think of the difference between someone who is disciplined and someone who is not. The undisciplined person works when they feel good. They start and stop all the time. They blame their mood, the weather, their stress. The disciplined person follows their plan no matter how they feel. They treat their tasks as obligations, not options. Over time, that difference becomes massive. The disciplined person moves ahead while the undisciplined person wonders why nothing changes. Your feelings are temporary. Your results are permanent. That's why it's so dangerous to let emotions dictate action. Imagine if you went to work only when you felt like it. Imagine if you exercised only when it felt easy. Imagine if you took care of your family only when you were in a cheerful mood. That would be chaos. You can't live that way and expect to build stability. The same applies to your personal goals. You cannot grow if you only work when you're in the mood. Some people say, but I work better when I'm in a good mood. That's fine, but what about the days you're not? Do you just let them pass? If you work only on good days, you're throwing away half your life, maybe more. High performers know that even an average effort on a bad day is better than zero effort at all. And often, showing up on bad days strengthens you more than the easy days ever could. When you show yourself that you can work through a bad mood, you build trust with yourself. You prove that you can be counted on. You're not just someone who follows through when it's comfortable. You're someone who follows through because it's who you are. That's powerful. That's how you become unstoppable. It's not about ignoring your feelings. It's about not letting them make the decisions for you. If you feel tired, you can still work, maybe at a slower pace, but you work. If you feel distracted, you focus for a short burst and get something done. If you feel stressed, you take a breath and do the next task anyway. You adapt without stopping. You adjust without quitting. This is what separates amateurs from professionals. Amateurs treat work like a mood-based hobby. Professionals treat it like a daily responsibility. They know some days will be tough. They know they won't always feel like it, but they do it anyway because the standard matters more than the feeling. In harmony, you're more likely to feel it. So here's the real challenge. Tomorrow, when you wake up, don't ask yourself how you feel. Ask yourself, what's on my plan? And do that. Whether it's making the calls, writing the pages, going to the gym, learning the skill, do it. If you feel great, do it. If you feel bad, do it. If you feel nothing at all, do it. Because the person who acts every day wins. The person who waits for the perfect mood loses. And you will notice something over time. The more you act without depending on your mood, the less your mood controls you. You stop being a servant to your emotions. You start being the kind of person who gets things done, no matter what. That's how you build momentum. That's how you keep promises to yourself. And that's how you create a life where results are predictable, not accidental. The truth is simple. If you only work when you feel like it, you will never reach your full potential. But if you decide to work every day, no matter your mood, you can build something that lasts. You can become someone who is consistent, dependable, and powerful. And when you look back years from now, you'll see the difference between the life you have and the life you could have had. And you'll be grateful you stopped letting your feelings decide for you. Number 2, hold yourself to the plan, even on rough mornings. Some mornings are heavy from the moment you open your eyes. Your body feels slow, your mind feels cloudy, the alarm feels like an enemy. Those are the mornings when discipline is tested, because sticking to the plan on easy mornings is not what makes you strong. Sticking to it when you want to quit before you even begin is what builds the foundation that keeps you moving in life. A plan is not made for perfect days. It's made to guide you through imperfect ones. You create a plan because you understand that life will throw you moods, distractions, and discomfort. If your plan only works when you feel sharp and energized, it's not a real plan. It's a wish list. The real work begins when the bed is warm, the outside world is uninviting, and your head is telling you to take it easy. Rough mornings are where most people lose ground. They hit the snooze button once, then twice. They check their phone, scroll through nothing, and watch the minutes pass. They think, I'll start later, and later never delivers the same results as now. This is why holding yourself to the plan matters. It removes negotiation. There is no debate with yourself about whether you're in the mood or whether you'll make it up later. The plan says what needs to be done, and your job is to do it. You can't build a reliable life if you are unreliable with yourself. Every time you decide to push through a rough morning, you strengthen that trust. You tell yourself, I am the kind of person who follows through, no matter how I wake up. That identity matters. Once you see yourself as someone who shows up regardless of feelings, skipping becomes harder to justify. Your standards become the guardrails that keep you from drifting off track. The truth is, the first step on a rough morning is always the hardest. It's standing up when you want to lie back down. It's putting on the shoes when your mind is still half asleep. But once you start moving, the resistance begins to fade. Momentum grows in small actions. Washing your face, drinking water, opening the laptop, starting the first task. You don't need to feel ready for the whole day. You just need to get through the first few moves. This is where many people go wrong. They look at the entire day ahead and think, I can't handle all of that right now. That's too big to process at 6 a.m. on a rough morning. Break it down to the smallest next thing. Focus on completing that, then the next, then the next. Before you know it, you've kept to your plan without forcing yourself to think about the weight of the entire day. The plan is your anchor when your energy is low. It tells you where to start without overthinking. On rough mornings, overthinking is the enemy. It gives you too many chances to talk yourself out of action. If you know the first thing on your list is to write for 30 minutes, do that. Don't start negotiating with yourself about doing it later or cutting it down. You made the plan when you were thinking clearly. Trust the version of you that planned for success more than the version of you that just wants comfort. When you practice following through on hard mornings, you stop being controlled by temporary states. A bad night's sleep, a small problem, or a sudden worry won't ruin your day. You learn how to separate how you feel from what you do. This skill is rare, and it's one of the biggest differences between people who reach their goals and people who don't. It's not about forcing yourself into an extreme pace every time you feel off. Sometimes your energy is truly low and you need to adjust the intensity, but adjustment is not the same as quitting. Maybe you take a slower run instead of skipping the workout entirely. Maybe you do a shorter, focused session of work instead of wasting the day. The key is that you still show up in some capacity, no matter how you feel. Rough mornings also reveal how serious you are about the life you say you want. Anyone can talk about ambition when they're rested and motivated. But what happens when you're tired, frustrated, or uninspired? That's the real measure of commitment. If you back away from the plan every time the morning feels uncomfortable, your progress will always be fragile. You'll constantly lose momentum, and momentum is what carries you through the hardest parts of any journey. Holding yourself to the plan on these mornings builds a quiet confidence. You begin to trust that no matter what the day throws at you, you can still produce results. That confidence is powerful because it removes the fear of bad days. You know you can handle them because you've practiced handling them. It also sends a message to the people around you. Whether you realize it or not, others are watching how you handle the start of your day. If you are someone who consistently follows through, even when it's tough, you inspire respect and trust. People start to see you as dependable, someone who doesn't disappear when conditions are less than perfect. One thing that helps is building a simple morning sequence you can follow automatically. This is not about making every morning perfect, but about giving yourself something you can do without deep thinking when your brain feels slow. Wake up, drink water, stretch, open your notebook or calendar. Begin task 1. No mental debate, no social media, no side conversations with yourself about how you feel. This short circuit bypasses the "I don't feel like it" conversation and moves you into action before you have the chance to stall. Another factor is your environment. On a rough morning, small barriers feel huge. If your workspace is messy, if your workout gear is buried in the closet, if your first task isn't clearly laid out, your tired brain will use those as excuses. So prepare your environment the night before so your path is clear. Set out your clothes, have your tools ready, know exactly what you're starting with. Make it so easy to begin that not beginning feels unreasonable. There will be times when your mind starts offering excuses in a convincing tone. You deserve to rest. It won't matter if you skip once. You can double up tomorrow. Those arguments are appealing in the moment, but they come from the part of you that wants comfort over progress. Comfort in small doses is fine, but if it becomes your default, your future will shrink. When those thoughts come, remind yourself why you made the plan in the first place. The goal wasn't to work only when you felt ready. The goal was to build a life worth living. And that requires consistency, not convenience. The benefit of pushing through rough mornings is that you start to normalize it. At first, it feels like a major battle every time, but over weeks and months, it becomes part of your identity. You're no longer the person who skips when it's hard. You're the person who starts no matter what, and that identity spreads into every area of your life. Your relationships, your health, your finances. You become someone who can be counted on. There's also a deeper benefit. When you keep to your plan on mornings you'd rather avoid it, you develop mental toughness. You prove to yourself that you can overcome resistance. That toughness doesn't just help with productivity, it helps with every challenge life will throw at you. If you can stand up and face the day when it feels like the last thing you want to do, you can stand up to much bigger problems with the same steady mindset. You will never eliminate rough mornings completely. There will always be days when you wake up with low energy, low mood, or low motivation. But you can eliminate the habit of surrendering to them. You can replace it with the habit of adjusting, adapting, and still getting the work done. Over time, this habit will set you apart from the majority of people who only perform when conditions are perfect. The difference in results between someone who works 50% of the time and someone who works 90% of the time is enormous. That gap isn't created on the easy days. It's created on the rough ones. Those extra days of effort compound over weeks, months, and years until the difference in achievement is undeniable. So when the next rough morning comes, don't see it as a punishment. See it as a chance to prove who you are. You have two options. Give in to the comfort of doing nothing, or keep your word to yourself and stick to the plan. Every time you choose the second option, you get stronger. Every time you choose the first, you make it easier to quit again next time. Your plan is the map to the life you want. If you only follow it when the road is smooth, you'll never reach your destination. Hold yourself to it when it's raining, when the road is bumpy, and when your legs feel heavy. That's how you move forward when others stop. That's how you create a future that doesn't depend on luck or mood. That's how you make sure that no matter how the day begins, it ends with progress. Number 3, win the day when your head is not in it. There will be days when your mind feels completely disconnected from the work you need to do. You sit down and nothing flows. You try to focus, but your thoughts keep drifting somewhere else. It's as if you're there physically, but mentally you're miles away. Those are the days when most people surrender early, convincing themselves that it's just not their day, but that choice costs them more than they realize. Winning the day when your head is not in it is about proving to yourself that progress is possible, even when you're far from your best. The first thing to understand is that you don't need to feel fully engaged to move forward. Too many people think they need total clarity, perfect focus, or strong energy to produce results. That's not true. You can still make meaningful progress when your mental state is far from ideal. The key is to adjust your approach instead of shutting down. On days like this, lowering the pressure can help. Instead of demanding perfection, focus on completing specific, measurable actions that matter. Even small progress counts because it keeps the momentum alive. One mistake people make is waiting for their mind to wake up before starting. They drink more coffee, watch more videos, or scroll through their phone, hoping their mental energy will suddenly spike. Hours pass, and the day slips away. Instead, action often comes before clarity. If your head feels foggy, the fastest way to break through it is to start moving. Work through the fog rather than sitting in it. Doing something, anything related to your priorities begins to re-engage your brain. When your head isn't in it, overthinking is dangerous. You might start questioning the value of the work, doubting your ability to finish, or convincing yourself you'll do it tomorrow. These thoughts don't help you recover your focus, they just make it easier to quit. This is where discipline steps in. You follow the plan not because you feel ready, but because the plan was created for times exactly like this. Times when your emotions and energy are not supporting you. Breaking the day into smaller sections can make the challenge easier to handle. If you tell yourself you have to push for 8 straight hours in your current state, it will feel overwhelming. But if you commit to 90 minutes of focused work, followed by a short reset, it becomes more manageable. That small commitment feels achievable, and often once you finish it, you'll find your momentum growing naturally. It's also important to avoid chasing productivity tricks on these days. Some people jump from one tool, app, or technique to another, thinking they'll find a magic solution for their lack of focus. The truth is, when your head isn't in it, simplicity wins. Remove unnecessary choices. Work from a short, clear list of tasks that matter most. Give yourself fewer decisions to make so your limited mental energy can go entirely into action. There's another trap you need to avoid: comparing today's output to your best days. If you measure yourself against the times when you were in peak mental shape, you might feel like you're failing. But winning the day when your head isn't in it isn't about matching your highest performance. It's about not letting the day become a total loss. Even if you produce less than usual, you still keep the habit of showing up. That habit is more valuable than any single day's results. Sometimes a change in environment can help you reset your mind. If you've been staring at the same desk for hours, step outside for fresh air. Take a brief walk. Shift to a different room. Small environmental changes can give your brain a signal that it's time to engage. You don't need a full day off. You just need enough of a mental shift to get unstuck. What you tell yourself on these days matters more than you think. If your inner dialogue is full of frustration, you'll make the day harder than it needs to be. Replace "I can't focus" with "I'll focus on this one thing right now." Replace "this is a bad day" with "this is a day I can still win in a different way." The words you use can either drain you further or pull you forward. Sometimes your head isn't in it because of outside distractions, stress, conflict, or unexpected problems. While you can't always remove those factors instantly, you can choose to create a boundary for a set amount of time. Tell yourself, for the next hour, I'm putting all of that aside to handle this one priority. You don't have to solve every problem before you start working. You just have to decide that for a short period, you'll focus on what you can control. Winning the day in this state doesn't mean pushing yourself to exhaustion. It means getting the essential things done, despite how you feel. You may even find that completing these key tasks improves your state of mind. Often it's the inaction that makes us feel worse, while action creates a sense of progress and relief. One of the biggest benefits of mastering days like this is resilience. Anyone can work well when they feel great, but the ability to work when your mind is tired or distracted is a competitive advantage. It ensures that your goals don't stall every time you're not in top mental condition. Over time, it also makes you mentally tougher. You stop seeing an off day as a reason to retreat and start seeing it as an opportunity to prove your consistency. There's also a long-term payoff. People who can win days when they're not at their best accumulate far more progress over a year than those who only work when they feel sharp. Even if each of those tough days produces less output, the sheer volume of additional days worked adds up to an enormous difference. This is the quiet compound effect that separates consistent achievers from those who stay stuck. You might not realize it now, but pushing through when your head isn't in it also changes how you see yourself. You start to identify as someone who doesn't fold under mental resistance. That identity shift builds confidence because you know you can rely on yourself no matter what. When bigger challenges appear in the future, you'll already have proof from your own actions that you can perform without the perfect mindset. It's easy to treat a foggy mind as a wasted day, but that's not the truth unless you decide it is. You can still make progress, even if it's slower, smaller, or less polished than usual. You can still finish the tasks that keep your goals alive. You can still end the day knowing you didn't hand it over to distraction or apathy. The real win on days like this is not about producing your best work. It's about refusing to give up the day. You show up, you do what matters, and you move forward, even if it's just one step. That step keeps the chain of progress unbroken. That's how you win the day when your head is not in it. Number 4, act like the goal matters more than your mood. Most people let how they feel decide how much they do. If they wake up happy, they work hard. If they wake up tired, they slow down. If they're in a bad mood, they put things off. That approach will never get you anywhere significant because moods are temporary and unpredictable. If you want to reach a goal that matters, you have to decide that it comes before your emotional state. You have to behave as if the goal is more important than the way you feel in the moment. When you treat the goal as the priority, it changes the way you think about daily action. You stop asking, do I feel like it? And you start asking, does this move me closer to what I want? That one shift in thinking removes the daily debate that wastes so much time. You no longer need to negotiate with yourself. The decision is already made. The goal wins. This isn't about ignoring your emotions completely. It's about not letting them take control of your action. Your mood might influence how easy or enjoyable the work feels, but it should never decide whether you do it. There will be days when your mood is low, but the work is still possible. Those are the days that count most, because they prove that you are serious. Think about the people who accomplish things others only talk about. They aren't running on perfect motivation every single day. They have bad mornings, stressful afternoons, and distractions like everyone else. The difference is that they still take action because they've placed their goal above their momentary feelings. They understand that the work has to be done, whether or not they're in the mood for it. When your goal truly matters, you begin to protect it from the ups and downs of life. You stop giving your emotions the power to delay progress. You might be frustrated, but you still take the next step. You might be anxious, but you still follow the schedule. That consistency is what builds results, not bursts of enthusiasm followed by long gaps of inactivity. The challenge is that mood-based decisions feel easier in the short term. If you skip work today because you're tired, you get instant comfort. But that comfort is temporary, and it comes at the cost of your long-term satisfaction. The pain of regret is heavier than the discomfort of discipline. You can rest for an extra hour and feel for the moment. But when you look back weeks or months later, you'll see the missed opportunities. When you act like the goal matters more than your mood, you train yourself to separate temporary discomfort from long-term pain. You realize that you don't have to be in the perfect state of mind to be productive. You can still make calls when you're not feeling social. You can still train when you're not feeling energetic. You can still write when you're not feeling inspired. The work still counts, and the progress still builds. One way to strengthen this habit is to keep your goal visible and specific. If you can see exactly what you're working toward, it becomes harder to justify skipping. A vague desire like "I want to do better" won't push you when your mood drops. A clear target, a number, a deadline, a measurable outcome will remind you that every day matters. You can't get those days back, so you have to use them regardless of how you feel in the moment. It's also important to recognize that your mood often changes after you start. Many people wait for motivation before beginning, but motivation often comes from action. Once you start moving toward your goal, your mind starts to catch up. The problem is, if you wait for that feeling before acting, you waste valuable time. By acting first, you take control instead of waiting for your emotions to align. On days when your mood is low, reduce the size of your first step. Tell yourself, "I'm just going to work for 10 minutes," or "I'm just going to start the first part." Once you begin, it's much easier to keep going. This removes the pressure of trying to perform at full capacity right away while still keeping your commitment to the goal. You also have to be honest about how much control you give to your mood. If you look back over the past month and see that half your planned workdays were lost because you didn't feel like it, you have proof that your emotions are slowing your progress. That awareness can be a wake-up call. You can't let your feelings be the gatekeeper of your success. Some people say, "I work better when I feel good." That may be true for performance at its peak, but it's not a reason to stop when you don't. You don't have to be at your best to move forward. Even average effort, repeated consistently, outperforms bursts of brilliance that come only when your mood is perfect. Your goal will not wait for you to feel amazing. It will either be built through consistent action or left behind because of excuses. There's a level of freedom that comes when you decide the goal is above the mood. You stop wasting energy on deciding whether to work today. You stop letting small inconveniences derail you. You stop needing the perfect environment or the perfect frame of mind. You simply follow through because that's who you are now. Someone who acts on priorities, not passing feelings. This mindset will make you more reliable to yourself. Every time you choose action over mood, you strengthen your self-respect. You prove that your word to yourself is solid. You no longer have to wonder if you'll follow through when it's inconvenient, because you've already decided that the goal is non-negotiable. It also changes the way you handle setbacks. If your progress slows, you don't fall into the trap of quitting until you feel ready again. You keep going, even if your pace is slower, because the goal still matters. You've built the habit of moving forward no matter what. The reality is that life won't give you perfect mental and emotional conditions very often. If you need those conditions to act, you'll make very little progress. But if you can train yourself to move forward in any mood, you become unstoppable. You take control of your days instead of letting them control you. So the choice is simple. You can give your emotions the power to decide your actions, or you can give that power to your goals. One path leads to inconsistencies and regret. The other leads to steady growth and achievement. If your goal truly matters, it has to matter every day, not just on the days you feel like chasing it. Acting like the goal matters more than your mood is how you make sure you get there. Number 5. Refuse to waste a day because you feel low. There will be mornings when you wake up and everything feels heavier than it should. Your energy is low, your thoughts are slow, and your motivation is nowhere to be found. That's when the temptation to write the whole day off comes in. So you think, "I'm not in the right state to get anything done." And before you know it, the hours slip away. The problem with that decision is simple. One day turns into two turn into a week, and soon you've lost momentum you worked hard to build. If you want real progress, you have to refuse to waste a day just because you feel low. A low mood is not a reason to stop. It's a signal that you need to adjust how you work. Not if you work, you may not have the same energy or enthusiasm as you do on your best days. but you can still take meaningful action. Even a small amount of progress is better than allowing the day to disappear completely. The truth is, some of the most important work you will ever do happens on the days when you would rather do nothing. Those are the days that teach you discipline, self-control, and resilience. When you choose to keep moving in spite of a low mood, you take control away from the part of your mind that wants comfort over progress. You prove to yourself that your actions are not dependent on your emotions. This is one of the most powerful shifts you can make, because your emotions will always rise and fall. If they dictate your productivity, your results will always be unstable. The first step in refusing to waste a day is to set a minimum standard for yourself. On your best days, you might do far more than this. But on your low days, this standard ensures you still move forward. It might be a short workout, a certain number of calls, a specific number of words written, or any small but meaningful action that keeps your momentum alive. Having that minimum in place removes the decision-making pressure, because you already know what you need to do no matter how you feel. Another key is to stop expecting to feel ready before you act. Waiting for energy or motivation on a low day is like waiting for perfect weather to plant a seed. You might wait forever. Instead, focus on starting. Often, once you take the first step, your energy improves. Even if it doesn't, you've still made progress instead of letting the day slip away. Action can't always fix your mood instantly, but it can make the day count for something. On low days, it's important to simplify your focus. Trying to do everything at once can feel overwhelming, and that overwhelm can make you want to shut down entirely. Instead, pick one or two key tasks that will make the biggest difference, and put your energy there. Forget about trying to match your peak productivity. Focus on protecting your progress. One of the most damaging habits people develop is overanalyzing why they feel low instead of taking action. They spend the entire day thinking about their mood, researching ways to fix it, or distracting themselves to avoid it. In the end, nothing gets done. You don't have to solve your emotions before you do your work. You can move forward alongside them. It's also worth remembering that what you do on a low day shapes your self-image. If you consistently quit when you're not feeling your best, you start to see yourself as someone who can't be relied on under pressure. But if you keep going, even at a slower pace, you build an identity of strength. You begin to trust yourself to show up no matter what's going on internally. That trust is one of the greatest assets you can have, because it carries into every area of life. Your low days can also teach you something valuable about efficiency. When your energy is limited, you're forced to prioritize. You learn which tasks are truly important and which ones can wait. This skill is useful even on your best days, because it keeps you from wasting time on things that don't move the needle. There's a misconception that low days are worthless. That's only true if you choose to make them worthless. In reality, they can be some of the most impactful days if you use them to practice discipline. When you work on a low day, you send yourself the message that your goals matter enough to push through discomfort. Over time, this becomes second nature. You no longer ask whether you'll do something. You simply decide how you'll do it. You also have to watch out for the trap of making it up tomorrow. That promise sounds reasonable, but it often fails in practice. Tomorrow brings its own challenges, and you can't always double your effort to make up for today's inaction. Consistency works better than overcompensating after a missed day. The easiest way to stay consistent is to refuse to let the chain break in the first place. Some people think taking action while feeling low will drain them further. In truth, the opposite often happens. Sitting in an activity can deepen your low mood, while movement and progress can give you a sense of control. Even if the mood doesn't completely lift, you've at least created evidence that you can act despite it. That evidence is what builds real confidence. On days when you feel low, be careful about where your attention goes. Spending hours on distractions like social media, endless news, or pointless arguments can make the day feel even heavy. Protect your mental space by limiting what you take in and directing your focus towards something productive, even if it's small. This doesn't mean you can't rest or take breaks. It means you choose breaks that refresh you instead of drain you further. The way you end a low day matters too. If you finish with nothing done, you carry that frustration into tomorrow. But if you end knowing you pushed through and accomplished something meaningful, you go to bed with a sense of pride. That pride fuels your next day, even if it starts low again. Refusing to waste a day doesn't mean forcing yourself into perfection. It means refusing to give up on progress. It means showing up for yourself even when the feeling isn't there. It means understanding that momentum is built one day at a time, and losing even one day unnecessarily can slow you down more than you think. Every day you face the choice: surrender to the mood or stick to the mission. One choice keeps you comfortable now but costs you later. The other might feel harder in the moment but pays off in results, confidence, and self-respect. The more often you choose action, the easier it becomes. Low days stop being roadblocks and start being opportunities to strengthen your commitment. You don't control every emotion that shows up, but you do control how you respond to them. You can either let them dictate your actions, or you can decide that your time is too valuable to waste. The second choice is what separates those who reach their goals from those who just talk about them. Every day counts, and a low day still has 24 hours to use. What you do with them is up to you. Number 6, do the important things even when they feel heavy. There will be days when the things that matter most feel heavier than you expected. The work that moves you forward, the decisions that shape your future, the commitments that define your progress, they won't always feel light or exciting. Sometimes they will feel like a weight you'd rather set aside. But the truth is, those are the very moments that test how serious you are about building the life you say you want. If you only do the important things when they feel easy, you will never see what you're capable of. You have to be willing to carry the weight, even when it slows you down, even when it asks for more than you feel like giving. The important things rarely come with instant rewards. They don't give you quick bursts of pleasure or immediate comfort. They require effort, patience, and focus. That's why so many people avoid them. They fill their days with smaller, easier tasks that make them feel busy, but don't truly move them forward. It's a trap. The comfort of doing less important work is the reason so many people stay stuck. If you want meaningful progress, you must prioritize the work that counts, especially when it feels heavy. The weight you feel isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that what you're doing matters. Easy work doesn't demand much from you, so it doesn't change you. Heavy work forces you to grow. It stretches your patience, tests your discipline, and challenges your limits. This is why avoiding it keeps you the same, while facing it builds you into someone stronger. Doing important things when they feel heavy is about removing the option of delay. You can't keep telling yourself, "I'll do it when I feel ready," because readiness is unreliable. If you're waiting for the perfect moment, you'll miss too many opportunities. The people who build lasting results aren't waiting for energy or inspiration. They move forward whether it's there or not. They understand that the discomfort is temporary, but the results are lasting. On heavy days, your mind will give you reasons to postpone. It will tell you that it's not the right time, that you should take it slow, that tomorrow will be better. Those thoughts sound reasonable in the moment, but they are the quiet voice of resistance. They exist to keep you safe in the short term, even if it costs you growth in the long term. Your job is to recognize that voice and act in spite of it. Breaking big, heavy tasks into smaller steps can help you start. The first step might feel just as heavy, but it's easier to lift than the entire load at once. Once you take that first action, the next becomes easier, and momentum begins to build. It's like climbing a hill. The steepest part is often at the beginning, and every step makes the climb more manageable. It's also important to stop expecting heavy work to suddenly feel light once you begin. Sometimes it will, but many times it won't. That's okay. The goal isn't to make it effortless. The goal is to make it done. You can complete something without enjoying every part of the process. In fact, some of your best results will come from the days you pushed through without the comfort of motivation. Heavy work also demands focus. If you allow distractions to pull you away, the weight will feel even greater. When you know you're facing something challenging, create an environment that supports you. Clear away unnecessary clutter. Put your phone out of reach. Remove anything that might pull you into low-value tasks. The more focused you are, the sooner you can finish and move on. Your ability to do heavy work consistently is tied to your ability to see beyond the moment. In the middle of the task, you might feel drained or frustrated. But if you can keep your attention on the outcome, the benefits that will come from completing it, you give yourself a reason to keep going. That vision acts as a reminder that the effort has a purpose. You also have to be careful about your self-talk when you face heavy work. If you keep telling yourself it's too hard or too much, you make it feel heavier than it is. Replace those thoughts with reminders of why it matters. Tell yourself, "This is worth it," or "This will get me closer to where I want to be." Those simple statements can shift your perspective and make the weight feel more manageable. There's a deep satisfaction that comes from finishing something you didn't want to do. That feeling doesn't come from easy wins. It comes from knowing you pushed yourself through resistance and kept your word to yourself. Each time you do that, you strengthen your confidence. You prove to yourself that you can rely on your own discipline, not just your motivation. Heavy days also shape your reputation. People notice whether you're someone who shows up for the big, important work, or someone who disappears when things get tough. If you want to be seen as dependable to yourself and to others, you have to be consistent in doing what matters, regardless of how it feels. Sometimes the heaviness comes from fear. Fear of failing, fear of not being good enough, fear of the time and effort it will take. Those fears grow stronger the longer you avoid the work. The fastest way to shrink them is to start. Action breaks the cycle of overthinking. Once you're in motion, the fears don't disappear completely, but they lose their grip. The truth is, you will never regret finishing something important, even if it felt heavy the entire time. But you will regret putting it off, especially when you realize how much further ahead you could have been if you had started soon. That regret is heavier than any task you're avoiding right now. If you want a different future, you have to be willing to do the work that feels like a burden today. Those moments, more than any others, shape the path you're on. They separate people who talk about goals from people who reach them. Every time you face the heaviness and move forward anyway, you make it easier to do the next time. You build the kind of strength that doesn't depend on circumstances. Doing the important things even when they feel heavy is not about forcing yourself to love the process every time. It's about deciding that the value of the result is greater than the discomfort of the effort. It's about refusing to let your feelings set the limits on your actions. And it's about proving, day after day, that you are committed enough to carry the weight when it matters most. In the end, progress isn't made only on the light, easy days. It's built on the days when the work feels heavy but you do it anyway. Those days become the foundation of your growth. They are the proof that you're not just interested in your goals, you're invested in, and that difference is what will take you where you want to go. Number 7. Show yourself you can work through any emotion. Life will never give you the perfect emotional conditions to work in every single day. Some days you will feel motivated, confident and full of energy. Other days you will feel tired, doubtful, stressed, or even upset. If your ability to take action depends on waiting for the right emotional state, you will always be at the mercy of how you feel. To achieve anything worth having, you must train yourself to work through any emotion, not just the pleasant ones. This is how you prove to yourself that you are in control of your actions, not your passing feelings. When you make the decision to work regardless of emotion, you shift from being reactive to being deliberate. You stop letting your mood set the standard for your day. You stop asking yourself whether you feel ready to take action. You simply do what needs to be done because you've decided that your responsibilities and goals outweigh your emotions in the moment. This doesn't mean you ignore how you feel. It means you stop allowing feelings to dictate the choices that shape your future. Every emotion you experience is temporary. Anger, sadness, excitement, anxiety. None of them last forever. But the actions you take while feeling those emotions can have a lasting impact. When you learn to work while your mind is pulled in another direction, you teach yourself that you can still produce results in less than perfect mental condition. That skill is rare, and it is one of the most valuable things you can develop. There will be moments when frustration tempts you to walk away. Maybe something isn't going your way, or someone has upset you. In that moment, the easy path is to use your emotions as a reason to stop. But if you make a habit of that, you start building a life where your progress depends on external events you can't control. The stronger path is to acknowledge the feeling, set it aside for now, and return to the work. That's how you keep your momentum even in difficult circumstances. You might think working through strong emotions will hurt the quality of what you do. Sometimes it will make things slower or less comfortable. But that doesn't mean the work is worthless. In fact, it often reveals a side of you that you didn't know was there, a version of you that can push through discomfort and still deliver. That's the part of you that becomes unstoppable over time. One of the best ways to train this ability is to start with small wins. When you're upset, instead of shutting down for the day, commit to finishing one small but important task. Prove to yourself that the emotion doesn't have to own your entire schedule. Once you've done that a few times, you'll find it easier to tackle bigger priorities even when your feelings are pulling you in another direction. You also have to understand that working through emotion is not about suppressing or denying what you feel. It's about creating enough separation between the emotion and your action so that you can still function effectively. You can be angry and still write the report. You can be sad and still complete the call. You can be stressed and still meet the deadline. It's about recognizing that you are more than your current state of mind. Some people use their emotions as a constant excuse for inaction. They say they're too anxious, too upset, too distracted. And while those emotions may be real, letting them decide your behavior will keep you stuck. The truth is, your goals don't care about your emotional state. The world keeps moving, and opportunities don't pause because you're not feeling at your best. The ability to keep moving is what ensures you stay in the game long enough to win. Working through emotions also builds trust in yourself. You begin to see that no matter what's happening internally, you can still be relied on to follow through. That trust becomes part of your identity. You stop fearing bad days because you know they won't stop you from doing what matters. That kind of confidence is powerful because it frees you from the constant need for perfect conditions. You'll find that emotions often lose some of their intensity once you start working. Taking action shifts your focus. Instead of feeding the feeling by thinking about it, you're directing your energy towards something productive. It doesn't mean the emotion disappears instantly, but it becomes less overwhelming when you're actively moving forward. Another benefit is that your resilience grows. The more you work through different emotional states, the less power they have over you. You become adaptable. You stop being thrown off course. Every time life sends you a situation that stirs your emotion, you gain the ability to keep steady progress, no matter what's happening in your personal or professional life. This skill also prepares you for moments when the stakes are high. Important opportunities often come with pressure, nerves, or unexpected challenge. If you've trained yourself to work through any emotion, you can perform even when the situation isn't ideal. That gives you a significant advantage over those who crumble under emotional weight. The way you talk to yourself matters in these moments. If you tell yourself, "I can't work like this," you've already given the emotion permission to control your actions. Instead, tell yourself, "I can work in this state, and I will." That shift in language is simple, but it reminds your mind that you are capable of acting regardless of how you feel. It's important to remember that this isn't about overworking or ignoring your need for rest. It's about not letting temporary feelings become permanent roadblocks. There will be times when you truly need a break. Take it when it's a conscious choice, not an emotional impulse to escape discomfort. The difference is whether the break serves your long-term goals or just feeds avoidance. Over time, you'll start to notice something else. Working through emotions teaches you emotional discipline. You start to see that feelings don't have to dictate your behavior. You can experience them without reacting impulsively. That ability makes you more effective, not just in work, but in relationships, decision-making, and every area of life where emotions can cloud judgment. Proving to yourself that you can work through any emotion is one of the most empowering things you can do. It removes the uncertainty about whether you'll follow through on your commitments. It makes you consistent in a world where most people let their moods rule them. And it creates a level of stability in your life that emotions alone can't shake. You don't have to feel perfect. You don't have to wait until the emotion passes. You don't have to let discomfort win. The only thing you have to do is decide that your actions are not negotiable based on how you feel. Once you make that decision and keep proving it to yourself, you'll realize that emotions are part of life, but they don't control your life. And that is when you become truly free to keep moving forward no matter what you face. Number 8, make progress on days you would rather do nothing. There will be days when the idea of doing anything productive feels exhausting. Before you even start, your body feels heavy, your thoughts are scattered, and every task looks bigger than it actually is. Those are the days when the couch, the phone, or the bed calls louder than your plans. It's tempting to tell yourself that you'll make it up tomorrow. But the truth is, these are the exact days when making even a small amount of progress matters most. Progress on the days you'd rather do nothing is the glue that keeps momentum together. It's what prevents you from falling into long stretches of inaction that are hard to recover from. You don't have to do everything you planned on these days, but you do have to do something. Even one step forward keeps the chain of effort unbroken. The danger of doing nothing is not just the loss of that single day. It's the mental habit it creates. Every time you skip because you don't feel like it, you make it easier to skip again. Before you know it, you've trained yourself to stop when things feel inconvenient instead of pushing through. The first thing to remember is that action is not always fueled by energy. Sometimes it's the other way around. You might think you need to feel ready before you start, but often readiness comes from starting. The smallest action can shift your state of mind. Write the first sentence, make the first call, or take the first step outside. Once you're moving, your mind and body begin to catch up. You also have to change your definition of success on these low-drive days. Success might not mean completing everything at your highest standard. It might mean checking off one or two of the most important tasks and letting the rest wait. This isn't lowering your standards permanently. It's adjusting your approach to make sure you still move forward instead of giving up entirely. One useful strategy is to pick a non-negotiable action for the day. This is the one thing that, no matter what, you will complete before the day ends. It could be a short workout, an hour of focused work, or a set amount of progress toward your goal. By committing to that one thing, you remove the decision-making process that can drain your limited energy. Another key is to avoid feeding the feeling of wanting to do nothing. If you stay still too long, the pull toward inactivity gets stronger. This is why it's important to take that first step quickly, before your mind has time to build excuses. Start small, but start fast. The longer you wait, the heavier every task will feel. You should also protect your environment on these days. If your surroundings are full of distractions, the TV on, your phone buzzing, random clutter in your space, it becomes even harder to get going. Clear a small space where you can focus on your non-negotiable task. Make it as easy as possible to begin, with everything you need within reach. On days when you'd rather do nothing, it's important to manage your self-talk. If you tell yourself, "I can't get anything done today," you've already decided the outcome. Instead, tell yourself, "I can do something today, even if it's small." This shift in language takes away the pressure of perfection and replaces it with the responsibility of progress. You may find that once you complete one small task, it's easier to do another. This is the hidden benefit of showing up on low-energy days. You often end up doing more than you expect, but even if you don't, you've still succeeded in keeping your commitment to yourself. And that consistency matters far more than the size of the day's output. It's also worth understanding that the desire to do nothing isn't always about laziness. Sometimes it's mental fatigue from too much decision-making, or physical fatigue from poor rest. On these days, it's okay to scale your workload down. Just don't shut it off completely. Even light progress is better than letting the day vanish into avoidance. Over time, the habit of making progress on days you'd rather do nothing builds resilience. You learn that you can operate under less than ideal conditions. You no longer see a lack of motivation as a stop sign. Instead, you treat it as just another part of the process. This resilience becomes a competitive advantage because most people give in to these days instead of using them. The truth is, life won't always give you days when you feel productive and driven. If your results depend on those days, your progress will always be inconsistent. The ability to take action when you'd rather do nothing is what turns short-term effort into long-term achievement. It's also a way to protect your future self. When you make a little progress today, you save tomorrow from the extra weight of having to do twice as much. The work compounds in your favor. Small wins add up just like big ones, and they keep you moving toward your goal even when the pace is slower than usual. By refusing to surrender the day completely, you maintain the identity of someone who follows through. That identity is powerful. Once you see yourself as a person who takes action no matter how you feel, quitting becomes harder to justify. You know you've shown up on worse days before, so there's no reason you can't do it again. It's easy to think that one skip day won't matter, but not because of the work itself, but because of the habit it shapes. A single day of no action can be the start of a downward spiral if you're not careful. The same is true in reverse. A single day of progress, even when small, can keep you in the upward direction. So when you find yourself in that place where you'd rather do nothing, remind yourself that the goal is not perfection. It's movement. It's keeping the door open to progress, no matter how narrow that opening feels. The smallest effort keeps the habit alive, and keeping the habit alive is what will ultimately get you where you want to go. In the end, the days you'd rather do nothing are the days that matter most. They are the days that test whether you're committed to your goals or just committed to your comfort. If you can learn to take even one step forward when every part of you wants to stay still, you'll never lose momentum for long. That is the difference between those who wish for results and those who create them. Number 9, prove you can be reliable no matter your mood. Reliability is not built on the days when everything lines up perfectly. Anyone can show up when they're in a good mood, feeling energetic, and life is running smoothly. That doesn't tell you much about a person's true character. Real reliability is proven when your mood is low, when distractions are everywhere, when you don't feel like doing what you said you would do, and you still follow through anyway. If you can be counted on in those moments, you've earned the right to call yourself dependable. Your mood will change daily. It can shift from hour to hour depending on conversations, unexpected events, or even something as small as the weather. If you allow your mood to decide your level of effort, your results will be inconsistent and unpredictable. One day you'll be all in. The next day you'll be half-hearted. And some days you'll disappear entirely. That is not the path to long-term achievement. The people who create results that last are the ones who treat their commitments as non-negotiable, regardless of how they feel in the moment. Being reliable means you don't keep people guessing, including yourself. You know that when you set a plan, you're going to follow it. That self-trust is powerful because it removes the endless debate that wastes time and energy. You don't wake up wondering if you're going to do what you need to do. You already know the answer. And the more often you follow through in all moods, the stronger that self-trust becomes. Some people think they can hide behind their mood as a reason for not following through. They say things like, "I'm just not feeling it today," or "I'll be better tomorrow." But tomorrow is not guaranteed to bring a better mood. If you want to be truly reliable, you have to remove mood as a deciding factor altogether. You show up because you said you would, not because you happen to feel like it. When you prove you can be reliable no matter your mood, you also become more valuable to others. In any field, people notice who delivers consistently and who only delivers when the circumstances are perfect. Opportunities tend to flow toward those who can be counted on. Because reliability is rare. Many have talent, many have ambition, but far fewer have the discipline to act consistently regardless of how they feel. This doesn't mean you have to be at your best all the time. Reliability isn't about giving 100% every day. It's about giving what you have every day. Some days that might be 80%. Other days it might be 40%. What matters is that you show up and give the best of whatever you have in that moment. That steady presence is worth more than occasional bursts of brilliance, followed by long gaps of inactivity. Training yourself to be reliable in all moods starts with clear standards. You need to know exactly what showing up means for you. If you leave it vague, it's too easy to justify doing less when you're not in the mood. But if you define your daily non-negotiables, the things that must get done no matter what, you create a clear line you will not cross. That clarity makes it harder for your mood to talk you out of action. One of the biggest obstacles to reliability is the tendency to wait for inspiration. People think they need to feel a certain way before they can start. They imagine that motivation will just appear and carry them through. But the reality is action often comes first, and the feeling follows. When you begin, even in a bad mood, you often find your energy shifts as you work. But if you wait for your mood to change before you act, you may never start at all. You also have to be aware of the stories you tell yourself. If you keep reinforcing the idea that you can't work well when you're not in the right mood, you're giving yourself permission to fail on those days. Replace that belief with one that serves you. I can perform in any mood. I might have to adjust my pace or my approach, but I can still deliver. Over time, this belief becomes self-fulfilling because you keep proving it to yourself. Another way to strengthen this skill is to intentionally practice working in less than ideal conditions. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Train in the imperfect one. If you're tired, still complete your main task for the day. If you're frustrated, still meet your commitments. These moments become your personal evidence that you can be relied on no matter what. The more evidence you collect, the more natural it becomes to act without depending on your mood. Being reliable in all moods doesn't just help you professionally, It changes the way you see yourself. You stop identifying as someone who is easily swayed by circumstances. You become someone who keeps their word, even when it's inconvenient. That self-image will influence everything you do. You'll start setting higher standards because you know you can meet them. It also creates a positive ripple effect in your relationships. When people know they can count on you, they begin to trust you more. They feel confident giving you opportunities because they know you won't vanish when you're not feeling your best. That trust is valuable. It opens doors that mood-dependent people never get the chance to walk through. The real test of reliability isn't when you're feeling motivated. It's when you're not. Anyone can push through on a high-energy day. The question is, can you push through when you're tired, distracted, or unmotivated? If you can, you separate yourself from the majority who can't. That's what makes reliability such a competitive advantage. Very few are willing to earn it. There's also a personal satisfaction that comes from knowing you can be counted on in any mood. You go to bed at night with the peace of knowing you didn't let your feelings decide for you. You made the choice to act because it was the right thing to do, not because it was easy. That satisfaction builds confidence, and that confidence fuels the next day's effort. Proving you can be reliable no matter your mood is a lifelong skill. It's not something you master once and forget about. It's something you demonstrate daily. Each day is a new opportunity to either reinforce that standard or weaken it. The more days you choose to reinforce it, the stronger it becomes. You don't have to feel great to be reliable. You don't have to wait until your mood improves. You don't have to give in to every emotional shift. What you have to do is decide that your actions will be guided by your commitments, not your feeling. Once you make that decision and back it up with consistent action, you become the kind of person who can be trusted in any situation. And that kind of reliability is not just respected, it's remembered. Number 10, keep your word to yourself on the hardest days. The easiest time to keep promises to yourself is when life feels light and everything is working in your favor. Those days don't require much discipline. The real test is when the weight of the day presses against you, when you're drained, distracted, or discouraged, and you still choose to honor the commitments you made to yourself. That is what shapes character. That is what builds a level of self-respect no one can give or take away from you. Keeping your word to yourself on the hardest days isn't about perfection. It's about refusing to abandon yourself when it's tempting to let everything slide. On these days, comfort becomes seductive. You can tell yourself, I'll skip today, it's too much, and no one else may ever know, but you will know. And what you know about yourself matters more than anyone else's opinion. When you break your own word, you chip away at your trust in yourself. When you keep it, you strengthen it, even in the smallest ways. Hard days often bring feelings that make action seem impossible. Fatigue, frustration, sadness, or anxiety can cloud your thinking and drain your willpower. But the truth is, you can still move forward alongside those emotions. The promise you made to yourself wasn't conditional on feeling good. It was a statement of what you would do because it matters to you. If you let the hardest days rewrite that promise, you're telling yourself that your word only counts when life is easy. One way to protect your word on these days is to focus on your minimum standard, not your maximum output. You might not have the capacity to do it all, but you can still do something. If you committed to exercising, it might not be the longest or most intense session, but you can still move. If you committed to working on a project, maybe you don't complete a huge portion, but you can still advance it. What matters is that you do not break the chain of action you promised yourself you would maintain. The reason this is so powerful is because it builds a history of proof. Every hard day you show up becomes a reminder for the future. The next time you face another one, you can look back and remember, I've been here before, and I still followed through. That memory makes it easier to keep going, because you've already proven you can. There's also a deep psychological cost to abandoning yourself on the hardest day. When you break your own word, it's not just about the missed action. It's about the signal you send to yourself. You start to believe you can't rely on your own promises. That belief seeps into every decision you make. Soon you hesitate to set goals because you're not sure you'll follow through. On the other hand, when you prove to yourself that you will act regardless of difficulty, you create a strong, stable sense of self-trust. The hardest days are also the ones that define your identity. If you only see yourself as disciplined when things are going smoothly, your confidence will crumble under pressure. But if you build the identity of someone who keeps their word under stress, under fatigue, and under emotional strain, you become unshakable. That identity becomes part of you. It's not something you turn on and off. It's simply who you are. To keep your word on the hardest days, you have to remove negotiation from your process. The more you think about whether you should do it, the more space you give excuses to take over. Decide in advance what your commitments are, and when the hard day comes, follow them without debate. You already made the choice when you were thinking clearly. Your job now is to honor it. There will always be moments when the effort feels too heavy. You might even hear yourself thinking, "What's the point?" That's the moment to remind yourself that the point is not just the result. The point is proving you can be counted on. You're not just building a goal, you're building a reputation with yourself. And that reputation is what will give you the confidence to tackle bigger and harder challenges in the future. It's worth noting that keeping your word to yourself doesn't mean ignoring your limits. Some days truly demand that you adjust your pace. But there's a difference between adjusting and abandoning. Adjusting means you still honor the commitment in some form. Abandoning means you walk away entirely. One preserves trust, the other destroys it. On hard days, you might have to narrow your focus to just the next step. Looking at the full scope of your commitment can feel overwhelming when you're already stretched thin, but you can almost always take the next step, however small. And once you take it, you can take the one after that. This step-by-step approach keeps you moving without getting lost in the weight of the whole. The truth is, anyone can keep their word when conditions are perfect. That doesn't make you special. It just makes you normal. What sets you apart is keeping it when every part of you wants to break it. That's where strength is built. That's where self-respect is earned. And the more often you do it, the more natural it becomes. Think of the difference in where you'll be a year from now. If you keep your word only on the easy days, your progress will be slow, fragile, and dependent on circumstances you can't control. If you keep it even on the hardest days, your progress will be steady, resilient, and inevitable. You'll move forward when others You'll keep building when others stop. That's the real competitive advantage. Consistency in all conditions. So when the next hard day comes, don't see it as an obstacle. See it as an opportunity to show yourself what you're made of. You can either confirm the story that you quit when it's tough, or replace it with the story that you persist no matter what. Each time you choose the second option, you become stronger. Each time you choose it, you make it easier to choose again. Keeping your word to yourself on the hardest days is not just about hitting a target. It's about becoming the kind of person who honors their own standards. That's a life-changing shift. Because once you've proven to yourself that your word holds even under pressure, there's nothing you won't trust yourself to take on. And that trust is the foundation for everything you want to achieve. So here's the truth. If you keep waiting for the perfect mood, you'll keep wasting perfect opportunities. The people who build the life they want don't depend on feelings. They depend on action. Your mood will change 100 times, but your commitment has to stay the same every single day. From this moment on, make a promise to yourself. You will not let a good mood be your only strategy. You will show up when you're tired, when you're stressed, when you're not in the mood, and you'll still give what you can. That's how you create momentum that never stops. If this spoke to you, watch it again tomorrow morning and let it remind you to take action, no matter how you feel. And if you're serious about becoming consistent, stick around. The next video will take you even deeper into building the discipline that changes everything.